Well, it's always great when we can get in one of our local Congress members to the KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM studios. And Mark Alford, Missouri's 4th Congressional District, is here. He's on his Thanksgiving break, and he's joining us on KCMO. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning. Happy pre-Thanksgiving to you. I remember the last time I was here, Pete, right after I won the election. We came in the next day.
Right.
And it's so good to see you. And before we get started, I have something I brought to you from Washington, D.C. It is our challenge coin. On this side is the beautiful seal of the U.S. House of Representatives. On this side, Congressman Mark Alford. It's got the state seal of Missouri. It's got our district. It's got the B-2 stealth bomber and the beautiful row crops that we're fighting for in the Farm Bill. So here you go.
Let me take a look at that. That is, look at this thing. I mean, if I can't get some of my tax dollars back, this is a close second. This is very nice, Mark.
That looks
I appreciate
incredible
that.
from
You're
this
more
room.
than welcome.
And Mark's jealous on the other side of the glass.
I'll get you one, Mark. I'm sorry.
Looks awesome.
He's loving it. He's loving it. All right, so this is very cool. You guys are on your break, so what's kind of the schedule here? Being a congressman going on this Thanksgiving break.
Well, yeah, people think that when congressmen or women come home that we're vacationing. I came home in August. I did 12 in-person town hall meetings around the district. We did fentanyl forums. What I'm doing on this so-called break is not really break at all. I'm going to Jeff City today. I'm meeting with financial credit people. I'm meeting with some government officials. We're having lunch there. We're doing some stops in Sedalia, touring some businesses. So we don't stop when we come home. We're constantly in touch with the district. I'll take off probably tomorrow and Thursday. Then I'm working Friday and Saturday. I usually take off Sundays, spend time with God and family. Then I think Tuesday we go back to Washington, D.C. We take up these appropriation bills and we get something done for the American people.
That's great. So what is that relationship like between the state and what you're doing at the federal level? I don't think we talk enough about it. But
No,
what
we
are those
don't.
things that it involves?
Well, I'm trying to build relationships. I never spent much time at all in Jeff City. We're going to go there in February and refile, but I think I was there once before for what governor was it? I went for his inauguration party. I can't even remember at this point, but it was a long time ago. But I don't really have developed relationships with state legislators. I talk to them sometimes. Yeah. I try to develop these relationships, but it's important that I do. Not just for helping get votes down the road, but know what's important to them and what we can do on the federal level to help the states.
That's something that when you think about the money getting put in for just roads, infrastructure, a lot of it's coming from the feds, but then the state lawmakers are in charge of kind of dispersing it. Is that how it works?
Yeah, so when you see money that's coming down, like a lot of the COVID money that came down, a lot of the money to build the infrastructure for broadband right now, that's very important, has come through the federal government through the so-called Inflation Reduction Act, which I hate saying that.
Yeah, I know.
But it's being dispersed in the states now, and so I'm working with that. We only, in our district, it's only about 20% of our district has broadband. Sufficient enough to do telemedicine, homeschooling, and to have a business in your own home. And we're trying to boost that in the next 5 years so that everyone in our district has, like we did in the electrification back in the 1930s where we got electricity in everyone's home, we're trying to do the same with broadband.
I'm not, and you're the same way, obviously, not looking for the government to spend more money, certainly. But if there's something the government should be spending money on, it's getting broadband to rural America, because that's the only thing that's going to save it. We're seeing it shrink, not so much, obviously, in the Kansas City metro, but there's a large part of your district that is very rural, and I'm sure you hear about this.
Well, yeah, farmers need it now. My brother-in-law farms 3,000 acres in Henry County. He's flying drones to survey his crops, not planes like they used to. He's got a $2 million combine that's computerized, and a lot of it runs off computer systems, and you need Wi-Fi to help link up to go back to your storage for your mainframe, way over my head, but to calculate the yields and how much fertilizer you're going to need and seed to put down the next go-around. So things are changing. We've got to get more people out of the cities, as my feel, and into the rural areas in the 4th Congressional District. Land is cheaper there. It's a great way of living, great communities in the rural parts of 4th Congressional District. But unless you have the broadband infrastructure set up, it's going to be hard to attract families.
It's so true, because as the job market changes, more work from home, people can work from anywhere. And with housing prices cheaper in many of these places, I think people would like that lifestyle for all the reasons you laid out, but they got to have internet.
Got to have internet.
Wow. Mark Alford's here on KCMO in the studios, Missouri's 4th Congressional District. How about Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House now? He's been on the job for what? Has it even been a month?
I think it's been about a month.
I'm sure it feels like it's been a year.
I feel like, I've been there, 10 or 11 months, and I feel like it's been 5 years. This thing, I feel like I'm walking in quicksand. It took 15 votes to get Kevin to be Speaker of the House. Mm-hmm. This anvil was hanging over his head the entire time. This one person could stand up and have a motion to vacate the chair. Matt Gaetz ended up doing that. The same anvil's now hanging over Mike Johnson. But we've been in this quagmire all this time. We were waiting on the president to get his budget done. That was 2 months late. Mike Johnson says we are not waiting on that again. We're going to do our own budget. We're going to get these appropriation bills, all 12 of them done, hopefully, before we leave for break next time to come home and work in our district in August. But there have been delays. We went 5 weeks without a Speaker of the House. In the meantime, on October 7th, Hamas, the Islamic terrorists, invade Israel and butcher the people there, and we can't do anything about it. Mm-hmm. And so we were caught like in a straitjacket, and now we're back to work. We're passing these appropriation bills. We've got to pass a farm bill. It expired back in October, and we're doing an extension because the money's going to run out for some programs in January. And so we've got lots of work to do, and I'm excited to get back and get started.
So you guys getting back on Tuesday. Mike Johnson, a lot of people didn't really know who he was until he became Speaker.
Which is why he's Speaker.
Well, I was going to say, a lot of the names that we talked about, there was too much controversy there, right? You kind of had to have, I don't want to say a nobody, that's disrespecting him, but you get what I mean. Somebody who had no controversy.
I kept saying I said I was one of the originals who said you could put Jesus Christ's name up for a speaker and he couldn't get 217 votes. It is that serious because you had to have someone who didn't owe anybody anything and hadn't ticked anybody off.
Yeah.
Mike Johnson was a friend of mine. 2 years ago, he helped me in my campaign with just mentoring me and some financial support as well. And we've kept in contact, and we're on armed services together. There were some who thought before he should be Speaker. I never really had that in the back of my mind, but when everyone else started falling, like, Steve Scalise, he could have been a great Speaker. He couldn't get 217 votes. Tom Emmer couldn't get 217 votes. Jim Jordan, who most of my district said, we got to have Jim Jordan as Speaker, and I voted for him, and I supported him. He couldn't get 217 votes. When it came down to the last day on that Tuesday or Wednesday in the Ways and Means Committee room, and there were 8 people now in this race, including, too many to list.
Too many, yeah.
But Johnson was one of those, and it's kind of like a game of Survivor. We would have a secret ballot. Everyone would vote for who they wanted. It would go in this little tub, and then they would hand count these things, 220-odd votes. It took an hour to do each vote, and the person with the least number of votes would get booted off the island, right?
Oh, my goodness.
Well, it got down to the final 3, and Mike Johnson is in this. And I'm thinking, Mike Johnson's going to win this thing.
Wow.
And he did. And it was like, this may be a little dramatic, but you could feel the Holy Spirit in the room. It was the most incredible thing I felt in a long time. When he finally won, people were clapping and cheering, and Mike, it broke out. And he gathered everyone together, and we all prayed together. And it was the most moving prayer I've heard in a long, long time about building unity, getting something done for the American people. And he has continued. This guy, he strives in his humility to have the heart of God and the mind of Christ. And it is so refreshing to have someone up there who's not afraid of the gospel of Jesus, but is looking to find common ground with the Democrats and those in our conference who may disagree with things.
Yeah, it's been an interesting few weeks to watch unfold. Mark Alford, Missouri's 4th Congressional District, is here in the studio. We're going to take a break, come back with him next on 95.7 FM KCMO. Mark Alford joining us in the studios, KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. It is great to have him here. And Mark's spending, we just talked a little bit about it before the break, but specifically when we talk about Israel, Ukraine funding, the drama that's ensued on that front over the last few weeks, where do you think that goes from here?
Well, look, we did our job in the U.S. House of Representatives. We sent an aid package to Israel for $14.3 billion, which they need to help rebuild the Iron Dome, to help pay for their defense against the Islamic terrorists. Now they're getting, bombarded from Hezbollah, all these Iranian proxies that are trying to eradicate as you've heard in the chants, from the river to the sea to try to get rid of Israel, which we're bound and determined is not going to happen. They are an ally of the U.S. We firmly believe they're a beacon of democracy and hope in the Mideast. And so we want that package passed by the Senate. They are refusing to take it up because everything we're doing now, we're trying to find the money. How do we do it? We're not going to print another $14.3 billion and put it in the federal treasury and then pay this. We found the money. It was in the Inflation Reduction Act, these 87,000 IRS agents that the president wanted to sick on the average day American person. And we're taking some of that money and we're going to support Israel with that. The Senate doesn't like it. They just want something clean. The president comes at us with these huge requests. He did it this summer for Ukraine funding, and we're saying, no. We're going to find the money somewhere else. And when it comes to Ukraine, we want some answers before we give you any more money.
So what do you, when it comes to Ukraine, I mean, it sounds to me like it remains a noble effort to not let Putin win this war. But once again, at what cost? What's the off-ramp? Have any of those things been answered?
No, they haven't. Number one, I firmly stand behind Ukraine. I don't want anyone to think that the Republicans in Congress do not. However, the last Congress appropriated $113 billion. $67 billion of that was for direct military assistance for Ukraine. The president slow rolled that out, not really giving Ukraine a chance to win this thing early on. He's kind of piecemealed out the armaments, the tanks, the missiles.
Why would he do that? What's the benefit?
Well, I don't think he wanted to tick off other players in the region.
Wow.
He didn't want to tick off Vladimir Putin too much. I don't know. I don't want to get inside Biden's mind. Maybe he was trying to stave off what he thought would be a nuclear conflagration. But to slow roll it like that does not give Ukraine the chance. And now he's down to $5 billion that are remaining that we've appropriated. It's about $5 billion. And what we're doing, let me explain to the people. When we say we're sending money to Ukraine, we're actually sending armaments, our old Abrams tanks, ammunition stockpiles that are on the bottom of the pile, that are the oldest. And then we're using that money to build new stuff for us, right? So we've got to make sure that we have the armaments necessary in our stockpiles to be a deterrent to China. That's very important right now when Xi Jinping, because of the weakness of Biden, is breathing down the neck of Taiwan. We need some answers, though, for Ukraine, and here's where I'm headed with this. Before we send any more money, we need answers. What does the end game look like for Zelensky? Is it taking back Crimea, Donbass? What? And they won't tell us. Mike Johnson hand-delivered these questions that we wanted answers to the security room when he first became Speaker of the House and asked these of Jake Sullivan and Joe Biden. And they come back with these answers that aren't really answers. It's gobbledygook. They will not tell us what the end game looks like, what's the projected time frame for victory for Zelensky and Ukraine, and what are the total dollars do they think are going to be needed over the long haul. We cannot get into another Vietnam that we cannot get out of.
And until you get those answers, it sounds like the House is not going to budge, and nor should it right now.
Well, there's some in our conference who want to just do a simple Ukraine funding package. I think the Democrat, if they ended up joining with the Democrats on that, you would get something passed. But I'm not voting for it.
Yeah.
Again, it's not that I don't support Ukraine. Please don't confuse those two. I do. They must win. But the American people who are funding this deserve answers.
Yeah. Mark Alford's on KCMO. By the way, his show, Mark Alford's America, airs Saturdays at 1 o'clock and Sunday mornings at 8:30 on KCMO. You've been enjoying a little media back in the game, doing some hosting and whatnot?
I love it.
Yeah?
You know what I love about it? Because I'm using my iPhone a lot for this. Like if you listen to the show Saturday, I would pull people out of the House chamber in between votes, and I asked them, Steve Scalise, Jason Smith, Ann Wagner, a lot of people who are my friends, what are you thankful for Thanksgiving? And I get these off-the-cuff, really open answers that I don't think a journalist asking the same question would get because they're a little less guarded with me. But these are my friends. These are my coworkers. And I want the people on your station to enjoy what I am enjoying up there, real people who don't have their own agenda in mind, but the agenda of the American people, and who are giving it their all for America. And that's what Mark Alford's America is about. Every week, we interview someone who I'm friends with, a colleague who are contributing to the fabric of America.
And are you still, when they know your background, obviously, are they a little more relaxed knowing that, you're one of them in Congress now?
Well, they know I'm not going to have a gotcha question. I didn't really ever do that when I was in journalism either. I've had it's funny, the BBC came to my office last week and did this interview. It lasted 30 minutes. And I said, why do you want to interview me? They spent like 2 hours setting up lighting. And they said, well, you're from the heart of America. And we wanted to get the pulse of what's going on. And I said, okay, great. So we sit down, and this guy's like Mike Wallace on steroids.
Oh,
he starts peppering me with this and that and Trump questions, and I'm just sitting there kind of smiling. And I said, okay, I know where this is going. And I did okay, but there were a lot of gotcha questions. You don't need gotcha questions to get the truth out of someone. And I think you know this as a journalist yourself and being in radio, if you can establish a relationship with them and get a conversation going, you're going to get the truth out of them.
Yeah, that's so true. Mark Alford's America, it airs Saturdays at 1 o'clock and Sundays at 8:30 on KCMO. Last thing, what are you thankful for, Mark Alford? That's what I want to know.
I know this sounds corny, but look, a year ago, 2 years ago when I started this campaign, and I had no idea I was going to get into politics, everything just fell into place. I think it was, I truly believe that it was part of God's plan that I do this. And so I'm thankful for him. I'm thankful for my wife. I'm thankful for my children who have supported me through this. I was the crazy dad who did the morning show on Fox 4 for 25 years.
Yeah.
But I'm thankful, I think, most of all, for the people who sent me here, who had the confidence, who took a chance on me to be their voice and their vote. I'm hoping that I'm earning that position now. I'm proving to them that no one's going to outwork me. No one's going to go to the district more than I am and talk with people and try to listen to their stories and take those back to Washington and tell their stories there and in the national media. So the heart of America, the heart of Missouri, can get the respect it deserves on a national stage.
Well, Mark, have a happy Thanksgiving. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you. God bless you.
All right. Mark Alford, Missouri's 4th Congressional District. His show Saturdays at 1, Sundays at 8:30.